Hey, I just wanted to hop on and say a few things about the last couple days and something that I have been experiencing with Ivan, who is now 4 but was 3.5 when his big brother died. Ivan was never a very anxious child, and now he has pretty serious anxiety. He's very afraid that we're going to leave him. And in his little mind, I think that he thinks we left Jackson at the hospital. Jackson was only in the hospital for 6 days, and he had so much equipment hooked up to him. And we really thought and hoped that he was going to have a recovery. So then we were going to bring Ivan up to the hospital to see him once he kind of got a little bit better. But everything was so critical and moving so quickly when he was in the hospital. But then when we were told that there was nothing else we could do, we had to bring him up to the hospital and give him the opportunity to say goodbye. And we had to use the terms that were difficult but clear to Ivan, which was Jackson died and he no longer needed his arms and his legs and his head and various things like that, because at Ivan's age, everything was very concrete. And I have very much been his safe place, which I always have, but it's much more severe now as far as like I can barely take one step without him being right on my ankles. And at one time it was terribly difficult because I basically got no time to be sad or to cry and scream and yell and grieve the way I needed to, because he was always attached to me. But at the same time, I realized that he needs me for his security, because his life got turned upside down. And so like his senses are on so high level right now. I mean, he can tell when we're sad, he can tell when we've been crying, when we just cried or need to cry or whatever. And he almost like listens for the doors to open to see if I'm going somewhere without him. And I tell him over and over again, I'm not going to leave you. Like when it comes to school, he's afraid I'm not going to come back and pick him up. And I'm like, every time I say I'm going to come back, I do. But like logically, I can understand why he has a hard time with that, but it's a very big challenge. If I'm sad, he has a hard time processing it. I mean, and I'm like, well, okay, I'm 39 years old and I can barely process it. So how could I expect a 4-year-old to understand it? And I don't expect him to. But like when I'm having a hard time, he senses that, he picks up on it, his behavior changes. And sometimes we have some days where it is just it's not a good combo, and I know that I need time away from him and he needs time away from me so that he can see that I am going to come back and I need to recharge. I've had to get to the point where I basically kind of like schedule my grief. When he's at school, I will take that time to go into their bedroom and look at pictures and really have hard cries. Because when I'm sad and I feel a cry coming on, I cry. I don't hide that from Ivan. But to full on bawl and, really be very just whatever with my emotions, I don't want to scare him, because he doesn't want me to be sad. And that's such a part of the conundrum that I have, because I am so sad. I'm so sad. But Ivan wants me to be happy. So I try to tend to my grief as much as I can. And talking about it and sharing about it is part of my process. Some people go inside. I am a verbal processor. So for me to have this video diary in a way, I think this is going to be good for me. I hope that what I say helps people and gives people a little bit of a snapshot of how much I'm juggling in my mind. I start to get very anxious about different things that I never have thought about before. I mean, one of the things I started thinking about this morning is that next week my husband and I have a dentist appointment, and we haven't seen the dentist since Jackson died and since I was pregnant, and they knew I was pregnant with a surrogate child. So I get so nervous about having to have that conversation because conversations change when people find out that your child died, because everybody knows it's the worst thing imaginable. And so, you know, that it just makes such a challenge. Like when I'm around people that I know I don't have to share the story, but I can talk about it freely however I want. But like, you know, I even had a situation at the library, and I don't remember if I shared this or not. You have to excuse me. I have what I call grief brain, because I don't remember what I said, when I said it, or who I said it to, or if I even said it at all. I had a situation where I was at the library and somebody asked me if Ivan was the youngest or the oldest. And one of my struggles that I have is unknown situations where I don't know, people are going to ask a very simple question like, how many kids do you have? Well, I have 2 kids, but one of them isn't here anymore. And I know that that makes conversations get awkward, and it's hard. I feel like almost like I'm wearing a scarlet letter, one that I didn't ask for. And sometimes it's okay, and sometimes it's not okay, and it gets awkward, and it's very hard to be on the end of the story that's making people that awkward. And I just always feel like, I know death is a very hard subject to talk about, especially a child's death. And, you know, I know it makes people uncomfortable, but I always like to give a reminder when it comes to talking to me or approaching me. And this is me, this is not how everyone is, but people are worried that they're going to say the wrong thing or say something to upset me, or that they're going to remind me. I like to make sure that people know that I never stop thinking about Jackson. And so if you bring it up, you're not going to bring something up that I haven't already thought about. You know, there's not too many things that you're going to say. If you think you're going to say the right thing that's going to make it better, I can assure you there's nothing you can say that's going to make it better. So for me, letting me know that they're thinking about me really does mean a lot. I need to know that because I can feel like I'm wandering around kind of alone, because this is lonely. My grief is my grief only. And even my husband's is not the same as mine. But when I speak to someone who's lost a child, they understand a little bit more. I guess I've been very, very agitated this week. I don't know why. I mean, I'm very busy. I have a lot of different things going on. You know, I'm toying and dealing with my own grief. I'm parenting a child who's grieving. I have a husband who's grieving in his own way. Parents and family, friends. My energy has been extremely zapped this week. I don't know why. There is no rhyme or reason to any of this to me. And grief is such an interesting, it's just a different thing. I haven't had a lot of loss in my life, so this kind of grief and uncontrollable emotion that just comes over me, I just can't stop it. And I don't know if in time that will get to the point where I can control it, or I don't know. Losing Jackson has been the ultimate. I have no control over anything, and so it's hard to know. It's hard for everything to be so unpredictable, and I just don't know when something's gonna knock me flat out. So I'm hoping that a little bit of a break to myself this afternoon is gonna help recalibrate me. If not, well, I'm just going to give myself some grace. So that's what I got today.